Welcome to Seeds of Thought. There comes a moment in a person's life when the pain is not coming from failure, it's coming from limitation. Not because you are untalented, not because you are lazy, not because you don't have what it takes, but because the life around you has become too small for what's inside you. And this is one of the most dangerous seasons you can live in because from the outside, nothing looks wrong. You still have people around you. You still have a routine. You still have a job. You still have conversations. You still have comfort. But deep down, you can feel it. You are being contained. You are trying to grow in an environment that rewards smallness. You are trying to build in a place that celebrates distraction. You are trying to become in a circle that only understands survival. And if you don't recognize this early, you will start misdiagnosing your life. You will call it lack of motivation. You will call it burnout. You will call it bad luck. You will call it, I guess it's just not for me. No. Sometimes the real issue is simpler and harder at the same time. The space is too small. You're not broken. You're restricted. You're not weak. You're crowded. You're not failing. You're growing in a place that can't hold your future. And today we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about what happens when your dream outgrows your environment. We're going to talk about haters, criticism, loneliness, rejection, and the quiet violence of average thinking. We're going to talk about why people laugh when you change. We're going to talk about why success often begins with separation. And we're going to talk about the one response that silences noise better than arguments ever will. Work. Not talking, not posting, not proving, not explaining. Work. Because there is a level of progress that makes criticism irrelevant. And if you can get there, your life changes. Let me give you the picture. Imagine a seed with the blueprint of a massive oak tree inside it. Strength, stability, reach, presence, longevity. Everything is already there in potential. Now put that seed in a tiny container, a shallow space, tight walls, limited depth, no room to stretch, no room to root. What happens? The seed may sprout. It may even look alive for a while. It may survive long enough for people to point and say, "See, it's growing." But it will never become what it was designed to become. Not because the seed lacked potential, because the environment lacked capacity. That is where many people are right now. You are not struggling because you're missing greatness. You are struggling because your current environment keeps negotiating with your greatness. Every day it says, be a little less intense. Why are you doing all that? You think too big. You take this too seriously. Relax. It's not that deep. Who do you think you are? And if you hear that long enough, you start shrinking yourself to stay accepted. You dim your work ethic so people won't feel uncomfortable. You soften your ambition so people won't call you arrogant. You stop sharing your goals so people won't mock your process. You postpone your next step just to avoid their reaction. And now the tragedy begins. You still have the seed, but you start betraying the tree. Listen carefully. A lot of people are not suffering from lack of ability. They are suffering from environmental compression. They are being squeezed by small minds, cynical voices, low standards, and constant noise. And here's the worst part. If you stay there too long, you'll start thinking that confinement is your personality. You'll say, I'm just not disciplined. I'm just not consistent. I'm just not leadership material. I'm just not creative. No, maybe you've just been trying to build roots in a place designed for decoration, not expansion. And there comes a point in your life when you have to make a serious decision. Will you keep fitting in, or will you start growing? Because you cannot do both for long. Let's address the noise, the gossip, the comments, the side eyes, the little laughs, the passive-aggressive advice, the people who suddenly become experts on your future the moment you start taking your life seriously. You know what's interesting? Most people don't criticize movement because it's wrong. They criticize movement because it exposes their stillness. When you start working, Your discipline becomes a mirror. Your consistency reminds them of their excuses. Your focus reminds them of their distraction. Your progress reminds them of the promises they made to themselves and abandoned. So what do? They reduce you with language. They call you weird. They call you obsessed. They call you extra. They call you unrealistic. They call you selfish. They call you changed. And sometimes you did change. Good. Because if your life needs a different future, it requires a different version of you. Let me say something that will set some people free. Not all criticism is correction. Some criticism is resistance. Resistance to your growth. Resistance to your standards. Resistance to your boundaries. Resistance to your refusal to stay available for nonsense. People are comfortable with your potential as long as it remains potential. They clap for your ideas. They celebrate your talent. They compliment your dreams. But the moment your dream demands lifestyle changes, the moment your ambition becomes action, the moment you stop entertaining distractions, the moment you say no, the moment your schedule gets tighter and your standards get higher, because now you're not inspiring. Now you're inconvenient. And that's when many people fold, not because the dream is too hard, but because disapproval feels heavy. So let me give you a principle. The noise is not your assignment. The work is. You are wasting years trying to explain yourself to people who have no intention of understanding you. They don't need a presentation. They need distance. You don't need a better speech. You need a better routine. You don't need to win the argument. You need to win the morning. You don't need to shut everybody up today. You need to build something so undeniable that time does it for you. That's the shift. While they discuss, you develop. While they watch, you build. While they judge, you train. While they perform opinions, you perform reps. And one day, the same people who talk the loudest will be forced to speak in past tense. I knew them when. I remember when they were trying. I didn't think they'd really do it. Exactly. Because you stopped feeding the noise and started feeding the work. Now let's talk about the part people don't post. The loneliness. The part where nobody claps. The part where nobody understands. The part where your phone gets quiet. The part where support gets thinner the more serious you become. This is where a lot of dreams die. Not in failure, in isolation. Because human beings can endure a lot of pain, but confusion plus rejection plus silence, that combination breaks people. When you're changing, there will be seasons where the old circle doesn't fit and the new circle hasn't formed yet. You are too growth-minded for your old environment and not yet established enough for your future environment. So you end up in between, and in that in-between season, you can start questioning everything. Am I doing too much? Am I chasing the wrong thing? Maybe they're right. Maybe I should just go back. Maybe I should just settle. No. What you're feeling is not proof that you're wrong. It may be proof that you're early. That lonely stretch is often the price of becoming uncommon. Because uncommon people make common people uncomfortable, not because uncommon people are better, but because they break social agreement. They interrupt the script. The script says, stay where you are. Complain, but don't change. Dream, but don't move. Talk, but don't build. Want more, but don't risk comfort. And when you break that script, you become a problem to people who benefit from your predictability. So yes, it may get lonely, but loneliness is not always a sign of loss. Sometimes, loneliness is the sound of your life recalibrating. Sometimes loneliness is what it feels like when distraction leaves. Sometimes loneliness is what it feels like when you stop needing constant validation. Sometimes loneliness is what it feels like when your standards start filtering your circle. And if you can survive that season without running back to what is familiar, you can build a life most people only talk about. This is where maturity begins. When you can be misunderstood and still remain committed. When you can be doubted and still keep showing up. When you can feel alone and still refuse to abandon your assignment. That is power. Not loud power, not social media power, not performance power, inner power. The kind that makes a person dangerous in the best way, because now your behavior is no longer controlled by applause. People always ask, what do I do with negative people? And the answer is less emotional than they expect. You don't need to defeat every negative person. You need to stop building your day around them. Some of you are spending more energy reacting to critics than investing in your craft. You are writing paragraphs in your mind to imaginary arguments. You are replaying conversations. You are mentally defending yourself to people who are not thinking about you nearly as much as you think. That is a leak. That is wasted fuel. That is delayed progress. Try this instead. Ignore, then outwork. Ignore doesn't mean you pretend negativity doesn't exist. It means you stop giving it creative control. Outwork doesn't mean burnout. It means directed effort. It means while they are speaking in opinions, you are speaking in outputs. A finished chapter, a better body, a cleaner budget, a stronger morning routine, a business plan, a skill stack, a disciplined schedule, a healthier mind, a product launched, a promise kept. This is how you respond. Not with rage, not with revenge fantasies, not with subtweets, not with emotional speeches, with results. And let me be clear, results are not about impressing people. Results are about freeing yourself. Because every time you keep a promise to yourself, you build self-trust. And self-trust is the real engine behind confidence. Most people think confidence comes first. No, confidence often comes after evidence. Evidence that you can do hard things. Evidence that you can stay when it gets boring. Evidence that you can keep going when nobody validates it. Evidence that your word to yourself still means something. That's why ignore and outwork is so powerful. It's not just a strategy for dealing with haters. It's a strategy for rebuilding identity. You stop being the person who reacts. You become the person who builds. You stop being the person who needs the room to agree. You become the person who can move without permission. And that is when your life starts changing in visible ways. There will come a day when you decide to leave something, a job, a pattern, a group, a habit, a relationship dynamic, a version of yourself. And the people around you will ask questions as if your clarity needs their approval. This is stable. This is good enough. You're getting paid. At least it's secure. What if it doesn't work? How are you going to make it? And sometimes the most honest answer is, I don't know exactly how yet, but I know I can't stay here. That is not recklessness. That is alignment. There's a difference between comfort and calling. Comfort asks, is this safe? Calling asks, is this mine to do? And if you live long enough, you will realize something profound. A lot of people will encourage you as long as your dream does not require your departure from what makes them comfortable. They are okay with your growth in theory, not in consequence. But when your dream requires less availability, more discipline, more sacrifice, more focus, more solitude, more risk, now they feel your change, and they may not applaud it. That doesn't mean you stop. It means you mature. Part of adulthood is learning how to make life-changing decisions without needing full emotional consensus from your surroundings. Because some paths are deeply personal. Some things are yours to do. Some doors are yours to walk through. Some seasons are yours to survive. Some assignments are yours to carry. And the people who don't understand it, they don't have to. It's not their dream. It's not their burden. It's not their vision. It's not their call. It's yours. And if it's yours, then your responsibility is not to make it make sense to everybody else. Your responsibility is to honor it. Let's deal with fear, because a lot of people hear messages about boldness and think fearless people just don't feel fear. That is not true. Fearless people often feel fear deeply. They just stop treating fear like final authority. Fear of rejection, fear of being told no, fear of failing in public, fear of looking foolish, fear of being alone, fear of starting over, fear of disappointing yourself, fear of success, fear of being seen, fear of not being enough. All of that can be present at the same time, and still you move. That is courage. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is movement with fear in the room. Here's what most people never realize. Fear is often guarding the doorway to the next version of you. You want a bigger life? You will meet bigger fear. You want deeper impact? You will meet deeper doubt. You want to build something meaningful? You will meet uncertainty, rejection, and resistance. This does not mean stop. This means you're at the edge of expansion. The question is not, can I eliminate fear? The better question is, can I build a system that helps me move while afraid? That's where transformation becomes practical. You don't need perfect confidence. You need repeatable action. One call, one page, one workout, one video, one pitch, one application, one conversation, one uncomfortable step. Then repeat. Fear loses volume when action creates evidence. Not immediately, not magically, but consistently. And every time you do what you said you would do, especially while afraid, you teach your nervous system a new story. I can survive this. I can do hard things. I can be rejected and continue. I can lose and rebuild. I can stand alone and still stand. That is how you become unshakable. Not by avoiding storms, by building stability inside one. If you choose an uncommon life, pay attention. There is a tax. The tax is not just hard work. The tax is misunderstanding. People will project on you. People will simplify your story. People will judge your chapter 1 against someone else's chapter 20. People will call your discipline obsession and your boundaries arrogance. Let them. You cannot build anything exceptional while trying to be universally approved by people committed to average. That's impossible. The more intentional you become, the more friction you may create with people who live reactively. The more focused you become, the more strange you may look to people addicted to entertainment. The more disciplined you become, the more extreme you may seem to people who normalize inconsistency. Again, let them. Not because their opinions don't sting. They do. But because you have to choose your pain. The pain of criticism while growing, or the pain of regret while shrinking. The pain of being misunderstood for a season, or the pain of betraying yourself for a lifetime. The pain of discipline, or the pain of staying stuck. Pick your pain, because pain is not optional. But progress changes what pain produces. This is what uncommon people understand. Opposition is often part of the path, not a sign you left it. In fact, sometimes the resistance confirms you're no longer living passively. And if you can stop interpreting every obstacle as a personal attack, you'll gain an advantage most people never develop: emotional durability. You stop collapsing because someone disagrees. You stop delaying because someone laughed. You stop quitting because support disappeared. Now you become difficult to stop, not because you're loud, because you're anchored. You want to silence the noise? Build. That's it. Build a stronger body. Build a cleaner mind. Build a better calendar. Build a real skill. Build an audience. Build a business. Build your book. Build your voice. Build your savings. Build your peace. Build your standards. There is a level of progress that turns mockery into silence. Not overnight, but inevitably. And I need you to hear this the right way. This is not about living to prove people wrong. That will poison your spirit. If your only fuel is revenge, you will burn hot and crash. Let criticism become information, not identity. Let doubt become weight training, not destiny. Let rejection become redirection, not definition. Then use all of it as material. That's mature power. You don't become successful to punish haters. You become successful because your life matters, because your assignment matters, because your family line may change if you stay disciplined, because your story may unlock someone else's courage, because what you are called to do deserves your full effort. Now, if the noise gets quiet as a result, fine. But your mission is bigger than your critics. Remember that. Some people are spending their prime years trying to win arguments with people who are not building anything. Don't do that. Put your energy where it compounds, into your habits, into your character, into your craft, into your consistency, into your calling. That's how you win long term. There is something else you must master if you're going to survive this season: how you talk to yourself. Because when support gets thin, your internal voice gets louder. And if your internal voice is toxic, you will destroy your progress from the inside. So you need a new language for the becoming season. Not fantasy, not delusion, not empty hype. Truth-based self-leadership. You need to be able to say, I am still in process. My current results are not my final identity. This chapter is not the whole book. I can learn. I can adapt. I can recover. I can rebuild. I can continue. I do not need everyone to understand me to move. I do not need permission to become who I was called to be. That kind of self-talk is not soft. It is strategic. Because your mind is always listening. Your nervous system is always recording. Your behavior is always responding to the story you repeat. If you constantly say, I'm behind, I always mess up, I'm not like them, it's too late, nothing works for me, then your actions will begin to obey that script. But if you say, I am learning discipline, I keep promises now, I finish what I start, I can be uncomfortable and still be consistent. I am becoming the kind of person who creates results. Now your behavior has a new target. This is what many people miss. Transformation is not just effort, it's identity training. You are not only building outcomes, you are building a person. The person who wakes up, the person who stays focused, the person who moves in silence, the person who can be doubted and still deliver, the person who can be lonely and still remain faithful to the work. That person changes everything. Let's end where many people need to begin. Your dream is your responsibility. Not your friends, not your critics, not your families, not the internet's, not the people who doubted you, not the people who left. And that truth is heavy, but it is also liberating. Because once you accept responsibility, you stop waiting. You stop waiting for support. You stop waiting for perfect conditions. You stop waiting for everybody to clap. You stop waiting for fear to disappear. You stop waiting for certainty. You stop waiting for the right mood. You stop waiting for a sign. You become the sign. You get up. You get dressed. You get focused. You get to work. Again and again and again. Even when it's inconvenient. Even when it's lonely. Even when it's slow. Even when people talk. Even when you doubt yourself, even when you don't see immediate results. Because this is what builders do. They build before applause. They build through criticism. They build through confusion. They build through resistance. They build through ordinary days. And over time, ordinary disciplined days produce extraordinary lives. Let me say that again, because somebody needs it burned into their spirit. Ordinary disciplined days produce extraordinary lives. Not one breakthrough moment, not one viral post, not one lucky opportunity, not one motivational high. Days, stacked, aligned, protected, repeated. That's how the seed becomes the tree, not by arguing with the pot, by refusing to stay in it. So if you feel misunderstood right now, good. It may mean you are no longer built for small conversations. If you feel lonely right now, hold your ground. It may mean your standards are filtering your life. If people are laughing right now, let them. Laughter is cheap. Building is expensive. Most people pay with commentary because they refuse to pay with commitment. If fear is screaming right now, move anyway. Fear is often the sound you hear right before your next level. If the environment around you feels too tight, don't shrink your dream to fit the room. Change the habits. Change the circle. Change the schedule. Change the standard. Change the pace. Change the life. And whatever you do, do not let a small environment convince you that you are a small person. You are not here to live compressed. You are not here to stay explainable. You are not here to die with your potential trapped in a container built by other people's limits. You are here to grow. You are here to build. You are here to become. So let them talk, and you work. Let them doubt, and you build. Let them misunderstand, and you continue. Because one day the life they criticized will become the life they can no longer ignore. And when that day comes, it won't be because you won the argument. It'll be because you won the war with distraction, fear, approval, and comfort. That is the real victory. Now get up, protect your seed, honor your calling, outgrow the pot, and build the tree.